Welcome to Talent Pop Podcast, where we will provide tips and strategies for success in sales, networking, marketing, and business. We will be learning from real stories that will inspire you to unlock your potential, discover your talents, and develop the confidence to take action on your biggest dreams. We are focused on empowering women to connect their passions with their purpose to find true fulfillment. It's time to pop off, queens!
Pop off, queens! Hi, welcome to Talent Pop. It's your host, Amanda O'Connell, and I have a special guest today. Her name is Hagar Spits, and she is the General Manager of Pulsenmore Americas. Welcome.
Thank you, Amanda. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I am so intrigued to hear more about your company. You're in the health tech space. I'd love to hear just more about your career path, kind of how you became a business leader on the health tech side, and
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. So I truly do love healthcare, and when I started, I went to study biomedical engineering, and I did that not because I wanted to be a biomedical engineer, but because I always wanted to have a seat at the table. So I wanted to make sure that whether I'm speaking to engineers or technology people or salespeople, I'm always part of the conversation.
I love that. That's so empowering.
It's well, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle in terms of getting to well, at least was part of my part of the puzzle, getting into where I am today.
Definitely. Yeah, and you know, in the industry, I mean, can you talk about that a little bit, just in terms of, like, it does seem like the engineer world and even the health tech space is more like male dominated. Is that, you know, kind of your thinking behind, you know, and I guess I think about, you know, school today, right? And they're trying to get more females in the STEM programs, and was that kind of your thought process behind that as well?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I would say yes. I'm pretty used to by now being in rooms that have majority male. But I think we can also look at it as a strength. You know, like
Definitely.
we're there, we stand out.
New ideas spring to the table, different perspectives. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
So I think I did my best to make the most out of that for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, so tell me more about kind of how you found your way into what you're doing. And obviously, you know, you have a product now that you're working on. So tell me a little bit about that journey and how you kind of got to working on that.
Yeah, so I started off, I spent about 6 years in different startup organizations
Okay.
before I realized it was time for me to go back to school. And then I went on and completed my MBA. So I did that in both in a school called INSEAD. It's both in France and Singapore.
Oh.
That's, by the way, also where I met my husband, who is Dutch. So after our MBA, we ended up moving back to Amsterdam. And for me, because I wanted to stay in medical device and healthcare, I joined Philips Healthcare.
Oh, great.
Which was an incredible journey.
Great company. Very huge.
Yes,
And
fantastic.
renowned.
Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Their headquarters is in the Netherlands, but I did get to relocate with them. So 6.5 years ago, we moved from Amsterdam here to the Boston area.
Wow.
So I've spent 12 years with them before switching to my current position back in April.
Oh my gosh. And I guess, what was that like? Like, you have all this international experience. I mean, what was that like coming over here and the transition?
Yeah, I have to say I'm super passionate about cultures and about meeting new people.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is in fact my 7th country to live in.
Oh my goodness.
So it was fantastic moving here. We got to know new people, different ways of doing business, different way of making friends even.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun.
Wow. And how did you find your way into the company that you're in now?
So this is a really, really funny story because one of my roles at Philips, I was heading our global ventures for ultrasound. And as I was looking for insights around new users and new use cases, I came across this company, Pulsenmore, that is putting ultrasound in the hand of patients. So I got so excited at that point. I thought this was an incredible technology.
Yeah.
And I reached out on LinkedIn to the CEO and founder and said, hey, when you guys get ready to move to the US, please give me a call.
Wow.
So we talked once or twice, but then it kind of died down. They were clearly not ready to go to the U.S.
Yep.
And I moved to another role within Philips. And then about a year and a half later, I got a phone call, and he said, "We're ready to go to the U.S. Come join."
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm very excited about this product because I remember being in those shoes of, the whole pregnancy. It's like, it's so exciting and you can't wait to go to your ultrasound appointment.
right.
It's like the thing that you look forward to for weeks, right? It's like weeks and weeks. And then every time you have one, you want to go back, you want to see more, you want the photos. Like it's just such a special time.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that something like this was even kind of out there right now.
Yeah.
And I can imagine too, you guys have come across some challenges, like in terms of, like maybe even HIPAA, like just being able to get for folks to have that data in hand and just the images and I'm just so intrigued.
Yeah,
That
so
is exciting.
We're very early on, I will say. So we're pre-FDA.
Okay.
And that is why this product is not commercially available in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
But it is available in Israel, and it is now, since we've closed a partnership with GE Healthcare, it's going to expand also in Europe fairly quickly, I expect.
Yep.
But I can show you. It's super simple and exciting. So
Okay.
this is a device.
And it's little.
And it is for personal use. So a mom would keep this at home for the duration of her pregnancy.
Okay.
And then she would plug in her own phone and dock it in.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And she would be able to either connect directly with her clinician or just follow simple 5 steps that look something like this. And then those images, as soon as she's done scanning, will be sent over to her clinician for interpretation.
Wow.
So it's super, super simple and easy to use. In fact, 98.2 of the scans that come through are good enough for clinical interpretation, which is very, very exciting.
And that, and that makes me think of a lot of things too, even during the pandemic, right? How, and during pregnancy, your immune system can be lower, and just having to come back and forth. I mean, as you grow, right? It's like having to go into the office, and you're going into so many appointments, and
100%.
I feel like it could be cost savings. It could be so many things.
Yes, and you're 100% correct, Amanda. Like during the pandemic, this in Israel at least was a huge game changer for a lot of women that didn't need to come in for appointments, didn't need to go to an ED where there are a lot of people with COVID at the time, and they could just keep at home and make sure their baby is fine.
Yeah, and even like when I was just thinking of people that could be on bed rest, for example, that may be very difficult for them to get in and out of the office and things like that. And geez, I think back to just my pregnancy and how difficult that can be. Wow, so that's definitely a game changer.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and to be honest, what I'm especially excited about and what was super clear for me when I moved is that this can change the lives of so many women.
Yeah.
And so there was no question in my mind that this is the right move for my career.
Yeah. Wow. And I love how a big topic we like to talk about here on the podcast is our passions and kind of following those passions. And I was thinking back into my career a little bit and how, I'm very passionate about the arts and ballet. And I remember reaching out to companies and being very specific with, you just have this vision and this passion and this idea and going for the right, person in the right company. And it sounds like you did something similar. Like you kind of had your eye on the prize and you're like, this is what I want. And you made those right connections to kind of make that happen. And I think that's really incredible because I think a lot of women, like, they're like, oh, like, first of all, it's getting to that idea of like, okay, I want to go to this company.
Yeah.
And then being able to actually make that happen, I think is impressive.
Thank you. But I do think that's probably that's really, really important, and this is what I try to talk to with a lot of the women that I've coached through the years.
Yeah.
I think being proactive and very deliberate and strategic about where you want to go, that is such a critical part of getting to where you want to go. Because if you're just going to sit there and wait or hope for things to happen, Sometimes they will, but also
You're right.
be prepared that they won't.
Sometimes, yeah, things surprise you,
Yeah.
and that could be very interesting and helpful. But then I also like to say, like, hope is not a strategy.
I say the same thing, so we're fully aligned.
Yep, definitely on the same page with that. And I guess like, have you seen or heard stories, testimonials of, women? I just love this whole concept of how putting this data in the hands of women like it is empowering. And what's your experience with that? In terms of this whole like female empowerment and the future of
Well, I personally wish I had this when I had my kids.
Same.
That would have made life so much easier.
Yes.
But I think especially here in the U.S., there is a huge opportunity to empower so many women. The March of Dimes, in fact, just released their 2022 report, and they call it Nowhere to Go. And that is because there are close to 5 million women that are in areas with very limited maternity care. And there are also 36% of counties across the U.S. that have no maternity care for the women that are living there. And then to make it even worse, we've seen since 2018 the mortality rate for women due to pregnancy have gone up by 30%. So there is this huge opportunity for us in the U.S. to do better. And I think for those women that don't have a choice or don't have much, the ability to take control of their pregnancy, to say, this is the care that I feel I need to get, and this is what my baby and I need, I think that is extremely important. And I can't wait for them to be able to have access to this.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how far just technology, and then in the healthcare space, what you can do with an internet connection. Like I guess, maybe they would mail these out to women that could be in more, maybe it's more remote locations or wherever where they may not have access to healthcare as easily, or even the clinicians, and even I think about nursing shortages, things like that.
Yes, 100%. Or maternal fetal medicine specialist for women who have high-risk pregnancies. This would be a game changer.
So tell me about your team right now. You're part of the Boston team. You're kind of in a similar space as us, where it's a co-work space. Are you growing that team right now? I'd love to hear more about next steps and where it's going.
Yeah, so the company globally has about 80 people, and since I joined in April, I started the Americas team, and we are 6 people, so still a very small group.
Yeah.
We are very busy with the FDA work and the FDA submission, and we're also participating in events and meeting key opinion leaders in our space and learning more about what would this solution look like in the U.S. environment. So yes, we are hiring at the moment. We have 2 or 3 open roles right now, and I think we're adding 2 or 3 more in Q1.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I would love to be able to speak to candidates who are passionate about this, and that is in fact one of the things that I look for. I look for people that this is what they want to do, that feel very strongly about this change that we're going to drive.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I love that you look for passion. I can definitely relate to that. And I guess in terms of in terms of your team, anything else I guess that you would be looking for, like in terms of background, like maybe, I don't know, like would you need a clinical background, or more just like, is it kind of geared towards, mom, maybe people that are moms? I don't know. What do you have in mind?
I will say I love diversity. I mean, it's a big part of who I am, and kind of living in different countries and meeting different cultures. I try to translate the same for my own team.
Great.
So we have people with clinical background and people with different industry background. We also have people from different cultures or different perspectives. I actually personally think that the more perspectives and the more points of view and skill sets we have, the better it is. And often it's not just about a specific individual's fit to a specific role, but sometimes it's also just fit with the team. How do I see this person interacting with the rest of the team? How do we grow something and make something together? So it's really exciting to see magic happens when teams get together. It's not about an individual.
Yeah, I love that whole concept of studying that because we're also building and growing our team too, and it's culture is such a huge aspect of that, and like looking for the right, and sometimes it's so hard to pinpoint. Like
Yeah.
it's a feeling, it's like maybe the person's attitude, or it's just there's something about them that is just
You feel
yeah,
it's just going to work out really, really well.
exactly.
I agree.
Exactly. And then I guess like, what advice do you have for women out there? I know you touched on this a little bit, but women that are either like looking for, their passion, or I just feel like I talk to a lot of women in the workplace, and sometimes they're just they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
They don't know, how to find that next step, and they kind of doubt themselves as to like, oh, I don't know what I'm good at, and what advice would you have for
Oof.
them?
Do you have an hour?
We can.
There's so much that I'd love to say to kind of my
Yeah.
young self.
Yes.
I mean, one, it's what we already talked about, which is being really, really deliberate and strategic. Think
Mhm.
about where do you want to be in 5 years, and then build into that the steps that you need to take in order to get there.
Mhm.
I've been very deliberate with where I wanted to go, and I feel that has helped me a lot.
Yep.
And it's not that always there's going to be an obvious choice versus less good choices, but it does help you directionally. And there are many ways to get to that point. So you shouldn't feel like, okay, there's this one opportunity and I missed it, so now there's no path
Right.
going in there. There are many, many opportunities to get to the same place.
Yep.
The other thing I would say for kind of the younger professionals, women that are beginning their career,
Mhm.
and I would say the same for men, to be honest. But it's a lot has to do with also picking the right partner.
Mhm.
I think we as women we have this impossible task of trying to figure it out and trying to look at kind of historically what women did and today what women do and
Yeah.
tomorrow what women's role will be
And it's
really
changing.
yeah it's constantly
Yeah.
changing so
It's challenging.
so you really do need to do a good job and this is the single most important decision you ever make
Yes.
choosing a partner that sees you as an equal
Mm.
talk about where you both want to go does it align
Mhm.
does he understand that he or she that there is a career path here and that
Mhm.
you both should be in a position to pursue your dreams.
Yeah, and I think about kind of the give and take there too, because sometimes that can be challenging. Like you both have goals, like so you
Yes.
both have professional goals, but you also have maybe family goals.
Yeah.
But then somebody needs like a degree or a certification or to go relocate somewhere. Like
That's
it can be such a journey and so challenging. And I have seen friends of ours, family, go through those types of changes, and that can be really tough, like
Yeah.
in a relationship too.
For sure, 100%. And there were times in my career that I stepped back.
Yep.
And that was okay. And there were
Mhm.
times in our career that we got really lucky, like being able to relocate with 2 jobs. That's pretty rare.
Yes.
So there are always going to be these ups and downs. But
Yeah.
what you need to do as a couple is prioritize, figure out what's important for you, and then fully go after that.
Yeah. And I think like where you're able to kind of give and take, that's tricky. Because I know, and even for me, like, and I was thinking about fulfillment when you were talking about the pathway, and you were like, sometimes people think about climbing the corporate ladder, and that's where they think they have to go. But sometimes it's more about being fulfilled, and maybe it's
Yes.
not a rank or, climbing a ladder and making it to the top, whatever that looks like, because what happens when you get there and you're like, oh, this really doesn't feel good.
That's right.
So then, I love that you talk about kind of like being deliberate and talking about passion.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't hear that enough, I feel like. I want, I love hearing when women are passionate about what they're doing, and it's so important.
Yeah.
You're spending so much time.
Going back to kind of what kind of qualities are like really being curious and continuously trying to figure it out. I think it's not a given, and what you wanted 5 years ago may no longer be the case now. But you need to set your eye on a target, and you need to work in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and enjoy the ride. That's the other
Definitely.
part of it, right? Like,
Definitely.
don't always be obsessed with the next step. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah. And I have to say, when you mention like your partner, right, and I think about all the business ideas and endeavors, like, my husband and I love to be creative with things and like kind of can take some risks, and like
Yeah.
we like that type
Yes.
of lifestyle. I know every couple's a little bit different, but I think that support is really key. If somebody has an idea and they're like, hey, I've been thinking about this, this has been tugging at my heart, or this is an idea that I have, you know I appreciate that support. And like, even I think about, when we opened the doors to our business too, and how I had to relearn, like I had to learn the staffing industry, and I didn't really know much about it. I was, came from marketing, and I came from like a healthcare company. Like,
Yeah.
I was trying to use what I had, what knowledge I had, but then it was also like, okay, I have to learn this, but then have the confidence in myself to continue to progress and to believe in myself. So when you have somebody cheering you on, and maybe not everybody has that,
Yeah.
it's much easier when you do have that support system and that cheerleader saying like, don't give up, you can do this. Like,
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, my partner has been incredible, and we are truly, like I always tell him, like 50% of his career he owes to me, and 50% of my career I owe to him,
it's
because
so true.
it's just, we could not have done this without each other's help. And maybe with a different partner, you go a different direction. If you don't have a partner, you go in a different direction. But
Yep.
um, but it's a challenge. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard to balance all these things, and you are a much stronger unit if you're supporting each other.
Yeah. And I think about that ebb and flow that you kind of mentioned, and even I think before the podcast we were kind of talking about our kids' ages.
Yeah.
And how my work has changed, like with their ages. Like,
Yeah.
just it kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it is that ebb and flow of that constant change. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, now my kids are in school, and now I can focus more on business and things I love to do. And but when they were babies, I was
Yeah.
barely
They needed you.
I could barely take
Yeah.
a shower. So
I definitely recognize that.
Yeah.
And it was a while back. So I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old.
yeah.
And it's true. Like, when my youngest daughter turned 5, there was a moment of relief. There's
Yep.
like no more diapers, no more
Yes.
of those other things that you do, sleepless nights. That was
Yeah.
that's gotten much better.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I could be much more myself again, which
Definitely.
has been awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And it is such a journey. And I think, like, I always have a special place in my heart for the women that are kind of, going through that whole, even the career change, right? Of that crossroads of, like, I want to have a family, and
Yeah.
okay, here I am, and I'm having a baby, but yet I also love to do these other things. And
Yeah.
I'm such a proponent of, like, you have to keep those passions alive.
Yes, totally.
Even if it's a temporary, like, okay, I'm going to stay home for whatever amount of time is right for you, but don't give up on those other things.
100%.
Don't lose that, because
100%.
that is what makes you you, and it's what's going to fulfill you, I think.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, Amanda. It's so critical that even in those times that you feel, oh, I should just drop it all, daycare costs more than my salary.
Yes.
Like, stay in if you can.
Yes.
Because the moment you drop out of that cycle, it gets much harder to come back 5 years later.
Yep.
And if you do keep something going, a shred of professional, and again, I stepped back myself in
Yep.
times in my life. I took 50% job, so it's not.
Yep.
This is not a catastrophic thing to do. Like, you need
No,
it, you
it's
take
not.
it, but just don't completely disconnect and think that you come back 5 years later and everything is just going to be waiting for you, because that's just not the case.
Yeah, and you made me think of another thing too, which is asking for help. Because I
Yes.
remember
that's so smart.
when my daughter was like a baby, right? I think my son was in daycare or something. It's like all a blur now. But things happen so fast. So I had asked my mom if she could, like, watch, my baby for, it's her grandchild, so it's easier for her. But she watched her for, a period of, like, I don't know, maybe it was 4 hours. And I just remember, like, being so strategic with my time and trying to bang out as much as I could in that time block.
Yes.
But I learned, like, motherhood really taught me how to be efficient.
That's it.
It's like,
prioritize.
yes.
Yes.
Because, and even like with the whole shower thing, I remember like, okay, the baby's sleeping. Now I have,
Yes.
X, minutes to like jump in the shower. And like, you learn those things and you adapt.
100%.
And it's like, it's amazing to see like, like I think before kids and I was like, oh, like I'm tired or, oh, like I don't have a lot of time. Well, that even shortens and gets more challenging.
Yes.
But it's amazing how like we adapt.
Yes. Totally.
And we make it happen.
Women are superpowers. Like it's
really
it's crazy,
yeah.
But you do learn these things and you do become more efficient and you learn to juggle like a million things, and in your head you're doing a presentation, but in your head you're thinking about like the laundry, or you're thinking about having to stop and do the groceries, and you just figure it out.
Yeah, you do. And you get into a flow.
Yeah.
And you like and it's all about like how you kind of structure your time, how you it's hard to describe.
And you need the help. You're so correct about that. We've found our rhythm, and it's been wonderful. But you need the help.
And don't feel bad about asking for that help.
100%.
Because I know I did. I remember when I was like, I hate cleaning.
Yeah.
I don't really like cooking either. To be honest with you, I know it sounds terrible, but I don't really like cleaning, and I felt like I wanted. Like it was my duty to do it all, and I wanted to prove to everyone and myself that I could just do everything. And then I was just like, I am like, this is not. Why?
Oh, I can spend an hour just on this topic, but I feel like there are these three elements in the triangle. There's gonna be how you are as a mother and a wife, so being to your partner, to your kids.
Yep.
There is how you are as a professional, and then there is how you take care of your house, and your children are always wearing the nicest clothes and fresh meals 3 times a day. And these are all really, really important things. I absolutely am not saying these are not important. Like this is really, really important.
Yeah.
But you have to choose. So what do you choose? Like you got to choose 2 of 3. You cannot do it all. And I admittedly, like we shamelessly outsource a lot of the stuff that is around the house, that is around taking care of groceries, or Amazon Fresh works just as fine as going to the supermarket. But we shamelessly outsource because being a good mom and spending quality time with my kids is what matters versus doing the dishes while being with my kids. And being on a date night with my husband is really, really important to me because that's how we reconnect all the time. And being a professional is really important to me. So very deliberate, very strategic about the choices that we make.
I love that. And I love that you kind of put it into 3 buckets because it can be easy to forget one of those buckets sometimes. Or not forget, but maybe put it on the back burner. Or, and like we were talking about too, it does change.
Yes.
It changes over time, and it changes with what's going on. You may be really busy on a project that, you need that extra help or whatever that is, but it's like being unapologetic about that situation, like you were saying, and just saying, this is our life. Yes. You cannot compare your life to somebody else's life, to that Instagram, and that's the whole other thing too, is just like, oh, you see what's out there, you see these perfect clothes and these smiling kids, and it's not reality.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's, and you have those moments, and you can, you can try to, enjoy those moments, but even like, we'll try to get together and take a family photo, and even that is
that never works.
A disaster. So, but I hope that provides a little bit of hope out there for, the working moms and the moms to be, and, the moms that, are going to be using this device very soon, in this technology.
I really, really hope
it's just very exciting and empowering, and
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. This was really fun.
It was really fun. Really great. Thank you so much. We are doing an event coming up too, so if anybody is interested, it's a recruiter social, so anybody that may be looking to grow their team or is a recruiter and in talent acquisition themselves want to join us. It's December 7th here in the Seaport Intercontinental Hotel from 4 to 6 on December 7th. So we'd love to see you there. And thanks so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pop off, queens.